All right, guys, welcome back. So the last time that we were talking about the water bottle, all right, we had left our hero, and he looks something like this. All right, so remember that we had created a two-dimensional sketch. We had um, joined two circles, all right, of different diameters with tangent lines. Drew our sketch, and then extruded that sketch into a three-dimensional object. All right, which is what we have here. All right. The next thing that we're going to do is now we're going to start to cut out the handle. All right. So if we take a look at the PDF, all right, we see that there's a hole in the body of the water bottle. All right, where a handle should be. All right. So this isn't just a straight cut through. What this is actually part of a revolve. All right. So part of the ergonomics of the water bottle is it's designed to be carried by a runner or by an athlete, right, as they're exercising. And so it needs to be comfortable, it needs to fit comfortably in the person's hand. So what we're trying to do is, from an ergonomic standpoint, the human body doesn't like sharp edges, it doesn't like 90-degree angles and that sort of thing very much. So what we always try to do is try to round um, and add rounding features, all right, soft rounded features, all right, to all of our edges. All right. So we're going to accomplish this cut inside of the body of the water bottle with a revolve. All right. The revolve itself, so what we're going to do is we're going to fast forward here to the sketch itself. And let me find the final dimension to sketch. Here it is. Okay, so let me zoom in on that a little bit. All right, so what we see is basically what we have is two circles, all right, of diameter 30, right? So we have a linear dimension on a semicircle here. I know that this is a semicircle because the endpoints of my arc are even with the center point of the circle. So I have a semicircle here, all right, which was built from a circle. All right, and the diameter of that circle is going to be 30, right? So if you take a semicircle or a circle and you measure it at its widest part, all right, you're going to get the diameter. Down here, right, this circle is going to be the exact same size as this circle up here. So we're going to constrain the bottom circle to the top circle, and we'll see how to do that in a moment. The centers of the two circles are going to be lined up along a vertical line. All right, so we'll see how to do that. And then we have other dimensions that tell us exactly where on this bottle this cut is. All right, or this sketch is. All right, so let's go back to our bottle, and let me expand that view a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to set up my view again, right? Default CSY, that default CSYS is kind of in the way, so I'm going to go to the View tab and I'm going to turn off that view. Okay, but I need my planes view to be on. All right, for this exercise. I'm going to roll my bottle over so that it's more or less in this view. All right, because ultimately what we're going to do is we are going to draw on the front plane. All right, so we're going to draw on the front plane, and I want the skinny side of the bottle to be to my left. All right, we can always modify that in the sketch setup, but it's usually easier if we just kind of get the model in more or less the view that we want from the get-go. All right, so here what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the Schools tab. So remember that all of the tools that we need to add features to our three-dimensional model are going to be under the Schools tab. All right, this time we're going to create a revolve. And we're going to click on revolve, and we're going to place the sketch. All right, so again, Creo tells us that it needs to know where to place the sketch, so we'll click on that, click on define. All right, and then what I want to do is I want to take a look and make sure that I'm selecting the correct plane. All right, so in my case, it's going to be the front plane. I want to draw on the plane that bisects the bottle into two equal but opposite halves. All right, so I'm going to select the front plane, click on that, and then go ahead and click on Sketch. All right, so we're back in the Sketcher toolbox. All right, and the Sketcher toolbox for a revolve and the Sketcher toolbox for an extrude are basically the same thing. All right, we have access to the same tools. All right, so we're going to use the circle tool to start, the center and point tool to start, and I'm going to draw two circles. All right, so the first circle, I'm going to select the tool. Remember that we have to set the center of the circle somewhere. It doesn't really matter where we set the first one. All right, so I'm going to left click and release, drag it to an approximate size. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, and then left click again. All right, so I've set my first circle. All right, now the second circle, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I draw the second circle directly below the first circle. So as I drag that center point around, you can see that at certain moments in time, I get like a little dash that's pointing at the center of the first circle. All right, so what that tells me is that that proposed point right there is directly below, right, on the same vertical line as the center of the first circle. So that's where I want to be. All right, I want to be directly below that first circle. When I click and release and I start to draw the circle, at one point I'm going to get an R constraint. R constraint, what it means is an equal radius constraint, which means that my two circles are the exact same size right now. Because if I have two circles with the same radius, that means that they have the same diameter, right? Which means that they are exactly the same size. All right, so I set up my first circle to be directly below and to be the same size as the circle above it. All right, so I'll left click again and I'll set my second circle. All right, and again, I'll deselect my tool. All right, and then what you'll notice, if we zoom in on the dimensions, is that I have a dimension for the first circle in terms of a diameter, but I do not have a dimension for the diameter for the second circle. All right, and what I do have is an R1 constraint, all right, between the two, and if I mouse over that, it tells me constraint equal radii, all right, and obviously the constraint is going to be strong, okay? So no matter what I do to the first circle, it's going to affect the second circle. I know that the diameter of the first circle has to be 32, so I can go ahead and set that. All right, and if you watch the bottom circle while I set the second circle, the diameter for the first circle, right, you'll notice that it expands as well, right? So if I change that value to a smaller number, right, say 10, you can see how, right, it's a much more marked difference there, right? So we know that the circle itself, right, needs to be, let me double check my dimensions, needs to be 30. All right, so I set that value to 30, and the second circle underneath it is the same. The next thing I want to do is I want to connect the two circles together with tangent lines. All right, so again, I can use the line chain tool. There's a couple of different ways to do this. I know that since the two circles are the same, I can start the line segment at the midpoint of, or on the same horizontal line as the center of the circle. Okay. Or I can just connect the two and use the tangent tool like we did in the first part of this of the body of this bottle, right? But we'll shortcut this a little bit, right? So what I want to do is I want to start that line segment on the same horizontal line as the center of the first circle, right? Left click and release, pull that line segment straight down, and then we will release when we get either a tangent constraint, a T constraint, or that same horizontal constraint, the point on horizontal line constraint as before, right? Once I get that, I can go ahead and click, all right, and then I'll center click to deselect the current line. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, same kinds of constraints. And then I'll deselect the tool and see where we're at. Okay, so here you can see that I have a couple of constraints here, right? So what this is telling me is that I have a tangent constraint here, a t constraint. Down here, I have a horizontal alignment constraint, all right? When we're dealing with circles that are exactly the same size, it doesn't matter, right? It's the same kind of constraint. It might be called something different, but it's going to give me the same rules, all right, for both kinds, right? Over here, we have a tangent constraint at the bottom and a horizontal alignment constraint on top. All right, so that's good there. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and trim away the inside arcs of these circles. All right, remember that we did that in the first example as well using the delete segment tool. So I'm going to select the delete segment tool, click on the first arc, click on the second arc. All right, and now we have basically the sketch in terms of its basic appearance is correct. And then I can go ahead and deselect that tool. All right. Creo lets me know that I have a good sketch so far, that it knows where it's going to add or remove material because it's all colored to the inside now. Okay. Next, we're going to place the sketch. All right. So where exactly on the body of this bottle does the sketch belong? Okay. So the first thing that we look at here is this dimension. All right. So I know that the top of the circle, the top of the arc, to the top of the bottle is going to be 20, and then the bottom of the arc and the bottom of the circle, I'm sorry, the body of the bottle, the bottom of the bottle, too many B's, all right, is going to be 20 as well. Okay, again, I don't know how long these tangent lines are, all right, these vertical lines are. I really don't care in this example. Okay, we can always figure it out if we have to, but we don't really care. All I know is that the bottom of the arc is going to be 20 from there, and the top of the arc is going to be 20 from there. So we'll go ahead and set those dimensions. So to do that, let's zoom out a tiny bit. Okay, we're going to use the normal tool. So the normal tool, what it does is it creates dimensions for us. All right, it's either going to give us an angle dimension, or it's going to give us an arc dimension, a radius dimension, or it's going to give us a linear distance. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up a linear distance here. I'm going to click on the normal tool. All right, and then the way that this tool works is we left click on the first entity that we want to set a dimension to. We left click on the second entity that we want to set a dimension to. So we left click on the top of the arc first. I'm going to left click on the edge, all right, that top surface of the bottle second, right? So left click there, and then I'm going to center click somewhere between those 2 points. Okay. A dialog box, text box pops up right away, and it asks me, what's the distance that you want here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and set that value to 20 and hit enter. Okay, so you can see that the whole sketch has been pushed down so that it is the correct distance from the top of the bottle. We're going to do the exact same thing on the bottom, right? So let me slide down here. All right, I still have the normal tool selected. I'm going to select the arc, left click there. I'm going to select the bottom edge of that bottle or the line reference. There's a reference there, so I can use that as well. All right, left click there, and then center click between the 2 points. And again, it's going to ask me how far away is it going to be, and we're going to set that value to 20. Okay, so you can see that the sketch itself got pulled to the correct size. All right, so the sketch is now the right size. It's not placed properly yet. All right, but we're getting there. Okay, and then we can go ahead and deselect the normal tool. The next thing that we want to do is take a look at the distance from the left edge of the bottle, right? So even though this is a rounded surface here, all right, when we're dealing with two-dimensional sketches, right, we always think about edges. All right, so the way that Creo refers to these rounded edges is a silhouette. All right, so almost think about it like a shadow, right? If we were to cast, if this object, if this bottle here was to cast a shadow, right, where would the shadow be? Okay. So we know, we take a look at the distance from the vertical line of our sketch to the edge, right, the silhouette of the edge of the bottle, and that distance is going to be 25. That's what these lines indicate. So we're going to go ahead and set that dimension. All right, so again, the normal tool, I'm going to select that left edge, that left silhouette, so you can see it kind of highlights in green. All right, and I also get a pop-up that says SILH. SILH is for silhouette. All right, so I'm going to click there, left click there, right? I'm going to left click on the leftmost vertical line of my sketch, and then I'm going to center click between those 2 points. And it's going to ask me again, how far do you want that distance to be? I'm going to say 25, and it's going to push or pull the sketch into the correct position. All right, so at this point, I actually have the sketch in the correct spot. Everything is where it should be. I'm 20 from the top, I'm 20 from the bottom. I have a diameter 30 circle. Let me deselect that tool. I have a diameter 30 circle, and I'm 25 from the left edge. All right, so all that stuff is good. All right, the last bit of a revolve then is to specify around what axis are we revolving. All right, so anytime that we deal with a revolve, what line are we going to spin that drawing around to create our feature? All right, so according to our sketch here, or our schematic, we have this axis out in space. This axis out in space we need to create. All right, so we're going to go back to Sketcher here, to Creo, and we know that this is going to be 30 away from that edge. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a center line. I'll say, so go to Datum and create a center line. All right, or select the center line tool. Center line, the way it works is that we place an X somewhere in space or somewhere on the model. All right, and then we can rotate it around until it gives us a vertical line. Obviously, we are revolving around a vertical line in this setup. So I'm just going to left click to set that center line out in space. All right, and then the next thing that we want to do is we want to set the distance of the vertical line of that axis that we just drew, all right, to the left edge. All right, so again, if we take a look at this schematic, this 30 tells me that from the left edge of the bottle to the axis or to the center line is going to be 30. So I'm going to use the normal tool. I'm going to select the center line. I'm going to select the left edge of the tool, right? So left click, center click here. All right, and we're going to set that value to 30. Okay. Deselect the normal tool. And then the last bit of this is we need to specify that this axis is going to be the axis of revolution. Okay. In previous versions of Pro E, we would have to specify that that was going to be the axis of revolution. All right, but here on this new version of Creo, all right, it automatically sets, when we use this center line, the datum center line, it automatically sets that axis as the axis of revolution. So if we're not sure if we set an axis of revolution, just mouse over the center line, and it tells us in parentheses axis of revolution. All right, if we use the wrong tool or the wrong center line, the center line under Sketcher here instead of datum, all right, then we would select the center line, right click out in space, and then select axis of revolution, right? So we get to the same spot. At this point, we're ready to revolve. All right, so I have a good sketch. I have a center line. I have an axis of revolution. All right, I have a good sketch. I don't have any weak dimensions. Everything seems to be where it should be. I'm going to go ahead and green check mark that, all right, to get out of Sketcher. All right, and then Creo is smart enough to figure out that I probably want to remove material. Okay, so in this case, Creo guessed right. If I wanted to add material, if for some reason we were adding material instead of removing material, I would go up here to this, up in the dashboard to this toggle button, all right, and toggle back and forth between adding material or removing material, okay? This dimension here, 360, is 360 degrees. All right, so when we create revolves, most of the time we want to revolve all 360 degrees. But every once in a while, we don't want to go 360 degrees. Maybe we only want to go 45 degrees or 90 degrees or whatever it is. All right, so we could set that value here. In this case, we want to revolve of 360 degrees, and we want to remove material because we're cutting through this area here. All right, so everything seems to be fine in terms of the cut. We'll go ahead and green check mark that. Okay, and there is our cut. Save it right away. All right, and then we are good to go here. All right, in terms of the cut, right? So if we kind of have the cut still highlighted, all right, so it's selected in our model tree here. All right, and we take a look at it, you can see that we have a rounded cut through the bottle. To finish the handle then, what we're going to do is we are going to use the round tool, all right, to set these hard edges here, all right, to a softer edge, to a more rounded edge, a little more friendly edge. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to select the round tool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a set, an edge set. All right, so holding the control key, I'm going to approach the edge of that cut that I just made, and I found I get better results when I select one of the straight edges. So I'm pressing the control key and I'm going to click on that edge. Okay, and then you'll see that the entire chain of edges, all right, that are connected to that edge that I selected are also selected. All right, I'm going to roll the model around because I want to do the same thing on the other side. Again, I'm creating an edge set. All right, so I'm going to zoom in here, press and hold the control key, select the edge. Make sure that you are selecting the edge. All right, so now you can see that I have both edges, all right, both edge chains selected on either side of the bottle. And then what I need to do next is set the radius of my rounds. All right. So for this example, the radius of the round was an 8. So I'm going to hit 8 and tab. I see a preview of what I have so far. It looks good. I'm going to green check mark that. All right. And now you can see, save it right away. Okay. And then you can see that we have our handle is pretty much complete here. All right. All right, so that's it for this part of the tutorial. In the next video, we'll take a look at how to add the neck of the bottle, how to round the top and bottom of the bottle, including the connection of the neck to the bottle, and then how to shell the bottle so that it's actually hollow, so it's actually a bottle and not just a big old chunk of plastic. All right, so we will see you in the next video. Thanks.